Hi Samir, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Given your 3-decade-long background in banking, what prompted you to shift to fractional ownership or hBits in general? Like why hBits and why fractional ownership?
Sure. Thank you. Firstly, thank you, Jiya, for having me here. I retired from banking in December 21. As you mentioned, I had worked there for 34 years and then wanted to do something different. Property has always been very close to my heart. I've been a very reasonably successful investor over time, investing in India, Singapore, and New York. And I wanted to do something around the technology world. So property, my love for property, technology, proptech. So I said, why not proptech? And then when this opportunity came from Shiv to become the co-founder and CFO, I jumped at it.
Okay, so can you just walk the audience through the whole proptech and fractional ownership market? Like what's the current market scenario? What are the market segments? And what is the revenue model of platforms like hBits, which operate on fractional ownership?
Sure, that's a great question. So firstly, let me take a step back. So fractional ownership, has been there in India for decades. So if you go to some of the smaller cities, if you go to Delhi, people have been buying land, people have been buying commercial properties, but it's been done in a very unorganized fashion. Plus there was no real regulation as such. So say 5 or 10 people actually get together and say, okay, I want to put in 1 crore each, and they'll buy a 10 crore property. And that's how it's been doing. And it's not been firstly regulated in the past, and it's been done in a very haphazard manner. So what now fractional ownership players like us are doing, especially hBits, is we are basically lending credibility to the whole platform. So ours is a tech-enabled asset management company. As you know, we have 310 crores in assets under management, and we've been in existence for 5 years. And what we do is we've created basically a tech-enabled platform where you do not really have to look at the property. The lease and license agreement is on the platform, and pretty much all the details you require are on the platform. And just by looking at the platform, you can decide whether to invest or not at the click of a button. And that's what we are doing. SEBI's also come out with the MSME REIT regulations. The board of SEBI has actually approved it, and they should be coming out with guidelines in a few months or so. As to the revenue model, the beauty about our model is very transparent. So we take a 3% acquisition fee from our investors. We take an asset management fee, 1% per annum from again our investors, because we manage the asset for them.
Yes.
And then on exit, typically we take 15% over a 10% hurdle rate. And why we take that is because then our interests are actually aligned with our investors. If we make money for them, we actually make money for ourselves. So it's very much aligned.
Yes. So you spoke about REITs. How is your AIF different from REITs? Like as an investor, if I want to invest in real estate, why would I not invest in REITs, but rather the AIF or fractional ownership through NCRE?
No, great question. So let's look at the distinction between REITs, micro REITs, I'm calling the fractional with micro REITs, and AIF.
Okay.
So AIF, if I see, AIF is a blind pool. A minimum ticket size is 1 crore. And typically you are locked into the fund. The fund typically would be around 7 years. So 1 crore ticket size, 7-year effective lock-in, and a blind pool. You do not have any say in what the fund is going to buy or not. Obviously, the broad parameters of the fund are known. If it's like for example, our AIF, it's a commercial real estate AIF. So we will do only non-residential. But it's a blind pool. You have no say in it, and you're locked in for 7 years, and the minimum ticket size is 1 crore. So that's the AIF. If we look at the micro REIT, you know the property which you're buying. You can identify it. All the details are given on the platform. You can go through it in detail. If you want to talk to a relationship manager, which we have, you can actually clarify that. And the minimum ticket size is 25 lakhs. Okay. Also, the beauty is there is no exit load as such. You can exit pretty much any time you want to actually exit. So that's the difference between an AIF and an MSME REIT. If you look at the REITs which are publicly listed, REITs behave a lot like the equity markets, and because they're also leveraged, interest rates make a big difference. And let me give you a case in point, especially in the US, when the REIT market has been actually decimated for two reasons. Rates have actually gone up, the occupancy of these buildings have not been there. So some of the REITs have actually fallen 75%. In India also, most of the REITs have actually not done too well.
Yes.
And the liquidity really is not as good. So if you ask me, over time, I think the micro REIT market will definitely become a lot better. And as we list it on the small exchanges, definitely it will be very, very good for the investor base.
Okay, so hBits offers micro REITs or the AIF, or is it both?
So effectively, it's both. These are two different. We have the holding company, and these are two different companies. We have the fractional ownership, which is the MSME REIT,
Yes.
and we've also got SEBI approval for our AIF, which is a 250 crore plus 250 crore green shoe.
Yes. So like you mentioned before that REITs in India are underperforming, like Embassy, Mindspace and Brookfield. All these REITs, when compared to the IPO prices, they're currently below the issue price. Like Embassy is down by 12%, Mindspace is down by 24%, and Brookfield is down by 58%. Whereas in Singapore, which turns out to be another market you're very well aware of. So there are 42 REITs listed on the Singapore exchange, and they occupy a significant 12% of the exchange's market capitalization.
Sure.
So why do you think, because of what factors has REIT as an investment not performed up to the par in India?
So a few reasons for that. One is obviously, as you know, the REITs are very closely linked to the developers. So the Embassy REIT with Blackstone, Raheja with Mindspace.
Yes.
So given the fact that you have a lot of assets going from developers into the REITs, that could be one reason.
Okay.
Obviously, interest rates going up has not really helped. And over time with COVID, I mean, especially the Bangalore market, I mean, there was a lot of non-occupancy. And occupancy levels have not really come up to 100%, right? Still the offices occupied, especially in Bangalore, around 70%. Mumbai is a different story. So I think these are some of the reasons why REITs have not performed in India. In Singapore, if you see, they went through a very bad patch. In fact, when rates were going up and through COVID, obviously REITs fell a lot. And now obviously they've come up, like the Maple Tree, and some of the other REITs have done well. What the benefit of the micro REIT, MSM REIT, or the fractional ownership is, because investors are protected, right? It's not listed on any exchange. And as long as they don't need money, this can actually be held for a very long time. And what people like us would do is then identify opportunities when we can actually exit these properties at the right time. So for example, we are looking at one of the properties to exit, which is going to complete 3 years. We're looking at an IRR of upwards of 15 or 16%. Okay. So that's what I feel. If you identify the property well, and obviously the micro market is good, which is what we really look at before investing into a property. I actually feel the micro REITs or the fractional REITs could get a much better performance over REITs.
In Singapore, yes, typically the best performing REITs lie in the range of 14% to 20% right now, as of now. But I totally agree that India is a potential market. So REITs do come with limitations. Like there are certain regulatory boundaries, like you cannot operate them on vacant lands or agricultural lands. Do the same regulations apply to AIFs and the micro fractional REITs as well?
So if you look at the fractional ownership model, right?
Yes.
We do only completed properties.
Okay.
We do properties which are rented, and we do commercial. So obviously you are looking at anything returns of 8 to 10%, fixed returns, and then the upside because of appreciation. So you look at overall 15%. If you look at an AIF, like for example, our AIF can also invest in under construction properties.
Okay.
So that, because we've taken, that's what we plan to do. Some part would be completed properties, some part would be under construction. Similarly, REITs in India can also invest in under construction property up to a certain percentage of their assets. So that's really the difference. Now, SEBI has come out very clearly around the fractional model that they do not want any leverage, and they do not want any properties which are not completed and rent yielding.
Yes. So, as you mentioned that the regulations are surrounding only the commercial aspect right now, do you think it will evolve to include other asset classes in real estate, like residential, for that matter?
Yes and no. Because residential, unfortunately, in India, as you know, gives rental yields of less than 2%. So when an investor is investing in residential, you're really looking at only capital appreciation, which again is a big question mark, right? You don't know. I mean, properties, the prices did not move for 10 years or 7 years in residential before they spiked up. So residential, I don't think makes a very good investment. Similarly, I've been reading that a lot of people are getting into vacation homes.
Yes.
I'm not sure that model really works because I've actually looked at fractionalization of vacation homes, and the math doesn't really work.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Similarly, people are looking at fractionalization of land. There again, you're really talking about capital appreciation only. In the US, they fractionalized art. In fact, we've had a discussion.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, we've had a discussion with an art dealer to see is there some opportunity for fractionalizing art. So a lot of things can be fractionalized. The question is, will your investors make money and how? If they're looking at monthly returns, then the asset class has to be very different. If they are willing to take high risk, then you could get into land or something else. So it all depends on the risk appetite of the investor, and that becomes very important. What I like about what SEBI has done is obviously they want to protect the investors, and that's why the guidelines which they are coming up are reasonably strict.
So while we talk about the SEBI guidelines also, there's a lot of ambiguity in the regulations surrounding the SPVs on which the fractional ownership model works. So could you just walk us through how the SPVs and proptech function, and particularly in hBits, what are the regulatory concerns you have to face because of the SPVs?
So presently, special purpose, these are bankruptcy remote vehicles, private limited companies which are created to buy only that asset. Once we identify the asset, we issue CCDs and equity to our investors. Through the CCDs, we pass the rental income to our investors on a monthly basis. As and when we sell the property after 3, 4, 5 years, we convert the CCDs into equity and sell the whole asset. So right now, obviously the collective investment scheme is there where you can't have more than 200 investors per SPV. Now, once the regulations come, when the guidelines come and they are implemented, that's actually going to disappear because the 25 lakh ticket size which we have is going to come down to 10 lakhs, and they will not have any restrictions around the collective investment scheme. So I think that's going to clear. And plus, if you list it on the exchange, then liquidity also improves. So I think this will basically solve two problems. One is the CIS problem, or the collective investment scheme problem, and the liquidity problem.
Okay. But as you've mentioned before that an SPV can only have up to 200 investors. There might also be secondary markets emerging, like at very nascent stages.
Right.
Wherein these investments get traded. So that would still expand the base of people investing in it illegally. Don't you think that comes in a grey area?
I don't think it's illegal because when someone sells, someone will buy, right? So you'll obviously, if one person is selling, one person is buying, unless you're getting more than one person to buy. But that depends on the asset manager, right? So we are very, very careful around how we create secondary liquidity. So we typically within 30 to 45 days, we exit the investor, and he sells it to some of our investors on the platform. So the asset manager has to be extra careful around it.
Also, I was just reading about this, that IT offices or the IT spaces, they constitute of 30% of the demand for office spaces, which is a major segment for commercial real estate. Now that IT offices are shifting to the work from home culture, around 53% of offices want to continue in the hybrid model, and 8% of IT sector offices want to go completely remote.
Right.
So how do you think will that impact commercial real estate in general?
So so commercial real estate, obviously there are different markets, right? You've got Mumbai, which is a very big commercial real estate market. Let's talk a bit about Mumbai. As we all know, and because a lot of you live here, homes are small. Wi-Fi is half the time don't work. It's not easy. Typically, people don't live in a nuclear family. They live in joint families. So work from home in places like Mumbai is not easy. In fact, people prefer to come to office. So we've had 100% work from office, and a lot of clients I talk to, most of them have that. So Mumbai is a different market. Tier 2 cities also, I think that's pretty much it. Pune also, people are coming. Bangalore are the places where the IT sector is very active. That issue to some extent is there. But there also, I mean, you must have read the news that TCS is there calling all the people to work. It's not been easy for them, but it's happening. Now, if 70 or 80% of your force actually works from an office, or if you have a hybrid model, you still need the office space. Without the office space, where would people come? So I actually don't see demand going down at all in India. In fact, I would say demand is only going to go up. Given what's happening in China, a lot of foreign investors are coming into India. A lot of people are setting up offices here. So I'm very, very confident that this space is going to explode. In fact, rentals, I think, will go up, the space will explode, and the demand will just keep going up.
I think I'll just end the podcast with this question. In your recent LinkedIn article, you had mentioned about real estate's inverse correlation with interest rates in general. So any instances or any situations that you've observed in your career trajectory of the same kind?
Sure. I mean, it's interesting because obviously, and I'll talk about global markets. US, obviously, when rates were going up, we saw commercial, obviously, properties coming off, residential properties. I mean, when interest rates went to 7%, getting loans became very difficult. So obviously, prices started coming off quite a bit, and it's very apparent, right? As rates go up, obviously prices will come down across. But what I think is, and I guess every country is different. Here, India, in fact, even when rates went up, residential prices still went up because there was a demand supply issue. Over the years, there was not too much supply, and suddenly the demand came up, so residential prices have spiked up. Similarly, if you see in Delhi, Gurgaon, residential prices have gone through the roof. So I guess every country is different. New York and US is probably one of the most sophisticated markets, and so that pretty much moves in tandem with interest rates. But I guess cities in India are very, very different. For example, Ahmedabad, I was hearing that despite rates going up, Ahmedabad prices have just gone through the roof, and over the past 7-8 years, prices have gone up 4 or 5 times, if not more. So every city is different, every country is different. But in general, when you have obviously rates going up, you will have real estate prices coming off. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samir. It was a delightful podcast. It was a really interesting conversation. I had fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jiya. Thank you for having me. Thank you.